Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 9 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through the Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, today I am so excited because we get to kick off Season 9 of the Future Ready Librarian podcast with one of the neatest stories I've ever heard from a library. And I was so grateful when Jill reached out to me and she told me that she had to share this story on the podcast. And I know that all of you are going to love hearing what happened in Jill Kelly's library too. And so first, we're just going to have you introduce yourself and tell us where you're at.
All right, I am Jill Kelly. I am the media specialist at Martin Technology Academy of Math and Science in Flowery Branch, Georgia. This is will be my 23rd year at this school, with all of them but one being in the Learning Commons. And I have a few years experience before coming here. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. And did you go back to school already?
well, today is my first day back to school. Teachers come back on Monday. We do 2 days before teachers as media specialists, and our kids start a week from tomorrow. So here we are. Summer flew, didn't it?
Summer flew by this year,
Yeah,
but I'm excited. I'm ready to go for a new
that's
year.
right. It
I
is always
know.
good.
Well, this story, the whole idea behind this story of what she's going to share has to do with a bird's nest and how it brought their school community together. And I think that's what's so special because I think about our libraries and community and discovery and exploration and all the things that we do. And that's why this story just really touched my heart. And I can't wait for you to just share how this unfolded in your learning commons.
All right. Well, it was exciting, and it just, you couldn't have planned this or dreamed this up, but it's kind of fun. So it was right after spring break this spring. We came back to school on a Monday, and you know, we wear a lot of hats in the library. And then additionally, I've been wearing mama hat for the past 8 years. I've had one of my kids with me. This coming year will be my first year without one. But that day, my son, fifth grader, was in here that afternoon, and I was busy doing mama things. And I might not have been giving him my undivided or even an ounce of attention when he was trying to talk to me. But I do remember him muttering, and I remember bird nest being mentioned. Okay, sure, whatever. So the next day, that was Monday, the next day, a Tuesday, some kids come get me. Miss Kelly, have you seen the bird's nest? I'm like, no, I have no idea. I've never heard anything about a bird's nest. What do you mean there's a bird's nest? And they bring me over to the little windowsill. I mean, it couldn't have been a more perfect spot where we can see it from our library window. Just, I mean, it was right there. And I got all excited. They were so excited. They're like, they're eggs, Miss Kelly, they're eggs. And they're like, they're two eggs. We saw them yesterday. They're two. And I said, oh no, look, they're three. And they're beautiful blue. I think they're robin's eggs. They're three. Could y'all not see well yesterday? Or maybe you didn't get a good angle. You kind of have to step up a little bit to be able to see it. Oh, I know there were two. I'm like, okay, but I clearly I see three. So that afternoon, my son comes in, and I was so excited to tell him. I was like, Will, you're never gonna believe this. There's a bird's nest outside our window. He's like, remember yesterday, Mom? I told you about it yesterday. I'm like, okay, I kind of remember you talking about bird's nest, but I had no idea it was right there. It didn't tell me it was right there. So I have the same conversation about the number of eggs. I'm like, there are three eggs. And he's like, Mom, there were two. And I, again, you must have seen wrong, son, blah, blah, blah. So because he loves to document everything in life, he immediately runs and gets my phone. He's like, Mom, I took a picture yesterday. And he showed me, he's like, see, I have proof. There were two eggs yesterday. So that's kind of where the journey began. I had no idea. I just thought birds laid all their eggs, plop. I had no idea that was like a thing, like an egg a day. So I mean, off out of the gate, I'm learning something. So by day, that was Monday, Tuesday, by Wednesday, my clerk comes running over and she's like, "There are four eggs." And I'm like, okay, this is a thing. Like we have to be watching this. Like it's right there. We can monitor everything. I've got to find her webcam. So we now all have our internal webcams on our laptops. I knew a couple years ago I had bought one, so it took me a minute to remember where it was. And so then we started the process of, okay, I've never done this before, but we're going to hook this up. And we started the journey. And then for the next month, we were all glued to what was happening at the bird's nest.
I just love that. I think that that is such a neat like experience that just united your community in so many different special ways. And then to hook up a live cam. And so tell me about that process. So you hooked up a webcam and was it live where the kids could watch it too?
It was. And so I had never done that before. But that's the key thing to being a librarian. And what we want our kids to know is that, you just have to know how to find resources. And you can learn how to do things and, be willing to be curious and to jump in and follow those. So, I got the webcam out. My clerk is amazing and she always has all kinds of interesting things. So she had, for whatever reason, had a little mount for her phone that she had thought we could use for something. And immediately, like, she's like, this is the best prop we can use to prop it in the perfect spot to get the right angle. And so we immediately got it going. And so, I was able to start the YouTube live feed, but I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know, as far as running so many hours, is this, I'm like, I don't have anywhere that this is being stored, what's happening. So I reached out to one of our county web engineers and he, has lots of experience with running our live board meetings and that kind of thing. So he was able to talk me through and, help me learn things that YouTube has, the 12, depending on what you read, the 12 or the 18-hour limit of, and then it just restarts. So I kept it going, but we weren't saving the footage. So anything I saved, I had to go back and do a screen recording of. And so, that first night we were curious, are we going to be able to monitor how much will we see overnight? And had no idea. I mean, these birds, they built their nest over spring break, so they didn't quite know that they were going to have hundreds of children walking past them every day when they first built that nest. But so perfect in our library window, but also it was right below a light. And so at night, I would still get a night view up until the county lights cut out for a few hours in the middle of the night. But we had a lot of light during the night too. So the first few weeks were watching. We had 5 eggs, so apparently that's a thing. Is that 5 is more rare. Robins normally lay 3 to 4 eggs, but 5 is rare. So we were like, we have something special here. Then we started doing the research on how long it would take them to hatch. So it's normally, a couple weeks. So we're like, okay, on the edge of our seats, like, when is this going to happen? So it was a Wednesday night. I started getting text at 7 o'clock. That day we had thought we had seen a small little hole. And so the teachers start blowing up my phone, there's something happening, there's something happening. And you could see the little hole and movement inside the egg. And just so many people were glued to this. So the next morning when we came into school, we had 2 that had hatched. And within 24 hours, all 5 had hatched. And so we started sending it to, other media specialists had it going. We kept it going on our classroom projectors. Kids were watching.
Oh, I love it.
And, I went through this moment of, okay, this is live. Like, what are we going to do if something bad happens? With like, please don't let a snake come. Please don't,
Yeah.
let anything happen. There was just this shared investment and watching. We had science teachers in other schools. So immediately I was like, okay, we're breaking out the iPads, we're pulling up Pebble Go articles on birds, we're bringing up the Britannica articles on robins. We're getting out the bird books. We're doing some directed drawings in here of robins. We named the birds. We had a contest to name the birds, and our school's Martin, so they were Martin and Marlene. Mama bird, that was the cutest thing in the beginning. Daddy bird, we called him Uber Eats. Like a couple of times we were able to see Daddy deliver food to feed Mama. It was so precious. And then after the birds were born, so much I didn't know. The kids, of course, were fascinated with the whole poop. They eat the poop immediately and keep the nest clean, and they're still getting nutrients from that. So of course the kids thought that was fascinating, and all the feedings were so fascinating. The fact that we were able to have all 5 hatch was, I thought, miraculous. We did lose one. And that was, I mean, the amount of investment. I got a text at home and a teacher was like, okay, I need you to count. I only see 4. I only see 4. Where's the 5th bird? And I was like, oh, surely they're just crowded. Surely they're just crowded. We're okay. And I went back and finally I found the moment. And the moment was that a Cooper's hawk came and snatched one of them. So, we were all devastated. That teacher was on her way to, monitor, because we falsely, of course, think we're somehow going to be Mother Nature and protect these birds because we're all so deeply invested. And, I had some friends joke with me that this is so common. It's a robin. They lay eggs all the time. They're everywhere. I'm like, there is nothing common about this. There's nothing common about watching the life, watching these hundreds of children run in the school building and want to know what's happened today. What's happened today? Where are the babies? Are the babies okay? We want to watch the birds. And coming in to see on their way to recess, we literally had playground guards. The classes that walked by, they would have a couple kids by the nest so that nobody would touch. But of course, they're so curious because it's right there. And, we had families watching at home and people, even media specialists from other schools were like, teachers that never come in here, that are not excited to visit the library, or like coming to check on the birds. And just such an opportunity for us to be united. We do one school, one book here, and we had finished it a couple of weeks before, and our assistant principal was like, this feels like one school, one book, like on steroids.
Oh, I love that. What a good thing. It's like, well, and I feel like it's kind of like when you have something really great happen in your library and they come to the library and then you hook them, right? Because
Right.
then they're going to come back and they're going to be excited about like the next thing,
Correct.
and that's the most amazing thing that happens, because that unity that you built within your library and your community is something that will stick with you too.
Right. Right. Then they're excited, and then they missed the birds once they left, but they wanted to come back for what's next. How they flew away was kind of amazing. They flew faster than we thought they would. We had done our research and, read about the fledgling stage where they start to, hop around the nest. And I don't know, I guess I had envisioned them staying closer to the nest, but once they fledged, they flew over the nest. So we never saw them again. But that moment, I was lucky enough. I tried to give them their privacy because we didn't want to disturb them. Oh, that's another thing. I didn't even tell you about the moments. There were a couple moments in the beginning where we got terrified that Mama was gone. Like she quit
Oh,
nesting. Because I'd be at the ball field watching. My friends would be at the ball field watching. We had it up at our home TVs. Teachers would text me pictures of them, monitoring from home. But there was one time during the nesting process where she just disappeared for a long time, like almost 24 hours. We spotted her twice.
wow.
And so we were terrified because, they know if something's wrong, and we're like, there's something's wrong. So she came back. So it's all this collective sigh of relief with the whole storyline. But the moment that they fledged and flew away, I just happened to peek, and we knew they were getting bigger and the wings, they were getting more mature. but I just happened to peek. And literally the moment I walked out the door, one flew, actually two flew together, and then the next, and then the next. So I got to see it, and it was the most precious thing. And my clerk were all like screaming, and one
Oh,
actually flew through the nest, not through the nest, through the fence, and got caught in the fence. And I'm not an animal, like I'm not going to touch the bird. I'm not that person. So immediately, and that's what I love about this. It's like such networking and connection, which is what I think the library is all about. So I call my friend at school that I know is the animal person that will immediately come rescue the bird. So she did. She came in immediately, took it from the fence, and we watched them hop around. Meanwhile, I've got kids in the library just peering out the window. It was the most precious thing ever when I came back inside and we tried to film what we could. These little, I think they were second graders, they said, we were just so lucky. And I just was like, that is the most precious thing. So after that, people were missing the birds. Like I have other schools, like where are the birds? Like they're I'm so glad they're safe, but like we miss them, we miss them. So we took some opportunities to make some connections and do a little deeper research. I had shared with you it's funny. I've been doing this a long time, but what I've learned and what I've always known is that we always have more to learn. But sometimes just the simplest things make the biggest difference and the biggest impact. Lola Schaefer, who's an amazing author who's written, 270 plus books, lives nearby and has done lots and lots of visits at our school. And she's a nature lady, and she's done writing workshops for us. And she had told us a few months ago at a writing workshop a tip, which seems so simple, but I had never, I don't want to say never, but it's not something I did as a normal practice. She's like, when you're writing with your kids, get your kids to do a Google search and search for scholarly articles. And when you find the scholarly articles, email those experts and let them email real live experts to make connections. And I'm like, that's a really powerful thing. So we had tried to do that with some of our fourth grade research this year. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take her advice and I am going to look at some Google. I'm going to look up robin articles. Who are the people researching researching robins? So when I did that, I found an article, and then just coincidentally, I had to happen to be the national ornithologist. Am I saying that right? Ornithologist, the bird
yeah.
people at the National Aviary in Pennsylvania. And so I connected with him. He was the nicest man. And that was when I connected with him, that was around the time we had lost one of the birds. So I'm like asking him because we think we can somehow babysit these birds and that we have any kind of role whatsoever. But, got teachers wanting to drive up. And, one weekend I brought my family and we sat and ate dinner here. The weekend we were scared the hawk was going to come back, like I was somehow going to do something. I don't know what I thought I was going to do. Just gave me peace to be up here. So I was corresponding with him through all of that. And then once the birds flew away, I was like, let's see if he can do a chat with us. So we Zoomed with him a couple times. All of our third and fourth graders Zoomed with him. And that was just an amazing connection. And the thing that struck me that I loved what he said, well, for one, he complimented our kids that, kids always ask better questions than adults do. And I think he's dead on about that. But he also was like, you know what? I don't want you to forget how you can be a scientist. And then it was interesting that the article that I had found online, he's like, I'm actually not a robin expert. He's like, I have other, specialties, but that article you found was actually a citizen found a very unusual situation where a robin and another bird were sharing a nest, and they both brought eggs
Oh,
um, to life in there. And he's like, so that was just a citizen, but I did the writing part. So he's like, I don't want you to forget that you're a citizen scientist. And so he talked to them a lot about that and about documenting. And, he said, like, your son your son taking that picture on the first day. I mean, that's what a scientist does. You gather data. So, we had lots of talks about observations and gathering data and researching, and lots of kids were using Canva to write stories. And I don't know, I felt like that just brought it full circle. Ending the experience with that was such a cool learning experience.
Well, and you never know. I know that when we have like experts, if they're either on Zoom or at our school, like you think about how these kids, like those little sparks of even like future careers for them or interests or hobbies that they might have. And I think that's something that we're so lucky to be librarians for that reason too, because we foster all those little curiosities that our kids have. And
Absolutely. Through all my years, I think connection is the word that resonates with me most in my job. That's most exciting. And the connecting to people, honestly, is probably one of my favorite parts. And it plants seeds, and I believe that those change trajectories of kids' lives. I mean, I just really believe that.
I do too. And what a special story. And also, it just has to make you like feel like your heart just has to be so big because of this. And
Oh, my
I
heart was
feel like,
exploding through all of this. I mean, we felt like we were, like we were part of the process, and delivering these birds too. And when they came, I typed to all the other media specialists in my school. I'm like, MTA birth announcement. Like, we felt so a part of it, and it was such a unifying, and just to see the excitement and joy and other teachers. I run into people like at the public library this summer. I ran into somebody, and I never met her. When I said that I was media specialist at Martin, she's like, "You're the bird lady." And
oh, I love
it was just so funny, but it just encouraged me, to follow the story, follow the opportunities. We don't always know where they'll go, and sometimes we get little ideas and they fall flat, but just chasing those to see what unites. It's funny. I've got over here in my office, I've got my you see my typewriter. I found that I've been read Olivetti, and met the author of Olivetti recently. I'm like, okay, we're going to try this typewriter thing, and
I love it.
maybe it takes off, maybe it doesn't, but just finding those things that can unite us,
Great thing. That's a
I think
good
is a
lesson.
good thing.
And especially as we start a new year, that's a great thing to remember. And so I just love that you reached out and I love this story. And now I want to look up your bird calendar and the social media. So I want you to tell people, I'll include the bird calendar in the notes, but I want you to tell people too where they can find you on social media if they want to check out this story.
Okay, so the bird calendar was fun. We kept pictures. I mean, I have this well documented. One day I'm going to write this. I'm seriously going to write this up in some way. And
You,
probably my dream is to turn this into a children's book. I've been pursuing
I
that
was going
dream
to
a
tell
long
you that.
time. Yes,
Yes.
I've
Yes.
been pursuing that, and I actually went to a conference this spring, and I've done some writing on it this summer. So that's in my dreams, but there are all kinds of pictures and whatnot. But the bird calendar was fun. We kept pictures there and shared it out with lots of schools, so you can see the exact progress of what happened
Okay.
there. And then Instagram, MTA Learning Commons is our Instagram. Where we share things, and would love for you to
And
follow.
also on YouTube. YouTube too. Same thing.
Yes, YouTube as well. I'm sorry. YouTube is also MTA Learning Commons, and that's where I'll be honest that YouTube has not been very active during COVID. We used it a good bit as a school. And so when I started to do this and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm like, well, I knew I already have a YouTube channel from when we had things in COVID. So I'm like, we're going to turn this into the bird live feed, and then we included some highlights that we saved there.
Oh, well, I'll include all that so people can go and find you, Jill. And it was just amazing. I love how you united your library through this story and what a great experience. And you need to write a book, girl. So this is perfect picture book and I love it. And you could tie in all kinds of nonfiction stuff. So I can see it in my head.
That's right. Well, Shannon, it was a joy to meet you. I've been following you for years and love your leadership and love learning from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And if you have another bird happening, you need to let me know because I
All
would love.
right.
Okay.
Thanks, Shannon.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett Content. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or to my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.